The mistake wasn't what Owen Parker uncovered. The mistake was assuming someone somewhere would care. Owen had been working for the Illinois Department of Transportation for 13 years, most of them spent behind spreadsheets no one ever read twice. Traffic flow optimization, logistics routing, grant compliance. The invisible arteries of a system that only mattered when it failed. On a gray Tuesday morning, while reconciling federal infrastructure data against state-level maintenance reports, he noticed something small and deeply irritating. A stretch of Route 117 had been resurfaced 3 times in 6 years. That wasn't unusual by itself. What was unusual was that the work orders didn't exist. The funding was allocated. The contractors were paid. The asphalt showed fresh layering. But the paperwork that justified it, had been quietly overwritten each time. Owen leaned back in his chair and frowned. Redundancy errors happened. Sloppy counties happened. But this wasn't sloppy. This was clean. Too clean. The kind of clean that suggested intention. He ran a comparison. Route 117 intersected a town called Bellwood Crossing. Population just under 9,000, technically unincorporated, sitting at the edge of 3 counties. It didn't register as a hub. No major employers. No industry. No crime spike. Bellwood Crossing was, statistically speaking, boring. Owen flagged the discrepancy and moved on. 3 hours later, the flag was gone. Not rejected. Not resolved. Deleted. He checked the audit log. No user attached. That made his stomach tighten. Systems didn't do that on their own. He recreated the flag. This time, the response was immediate. A soft chime. A dialog box he had never seen before. Entry ineligible for escalation. Reason, regional stability. Owen stared at the screen. Regional stability? He muttered. That phrase didn't belong in transportation software. He tried again, exporting the dataset locally. The file downloaded, but when he opened it, Bellwood Crossing wasn't there. Not blank. Gone. The rows jumped from mile marker 88 to 103 as if nothing had ever existed between them. Owen's pulse quickened. He checked the master map. Bellwood Crossing still existed there. But when he clicked into it, something strange happened. The map zoomed in, then subtly corrected itself. Roads shifted. Labels adjusted. The town's borders smoothed into surrounding areas, like a body being absorbed into tissue. Owen rubbed his eyes. He was tired. That had to be it. At lunch, he mentioned it casually to a colleague. "Hey, have you ever worked on Bellwood Crossing?" She paused mid-bite. "Bellwood what? Crossing. Route 117 runs straight through it." She shook her head. "Never heard of it." Owen laughed uneasily. "You've been here 20 years. She shrugged. "Guess not long enough." That afternoon, Owen did something he hadn't done in years. He drove. Bellwood Crossing was real. It had gas stations, a diner, a municipal building with a faded flag out front. Kids rode bikes. People waved politely. Nothing about it felt wrong. And yet there were no billboards. No welcome to sign. No town logo. The water tower was blank. At the diner, Owen ordered coffee and listened. People talked about weather, about road work, about nothing. No one used the town's name. Not once. When Owen paid, he asked the waitress, "How long have you lived here?" She smiled. "All my life." "And Bellwood Crossing?" She cut him off gently. "We just call it home." Owen drove back uneasy. That night, he searched national databases. Bellwood Crossing existed, but only as a routing artifact. A buffer zone. A transitional locality. No elected officials. No school district records. No independent crime stats. It wasn't governed. It was managed. At 11:48 p.m., his work email pinged. No sender name. No subject. Just one line of text. "Your curiosity is causing drag." Owen didn't reply. He didn't sleep. By morning, his access permissions had changed. By noon, his supervisor called him in apologetic. Budget realignment, she said. You're being reassigned. To where? Owen asked. She hesitated. Off the Bellwood files. That was when Owen understood the real problem. Bellwood Crossing wasn't hidden. It was protected. And whatever it was protecting was more important than people like him. Owen didn't fight the reassignment. That, in hindsight, was his second mistake. He nodded, thanked his supervisor, packed up his desk, and told himself he would look into Bellwood Crossing quietly on his own time, the way he used to when he still believed that systems broke because people weren't paying attention. Within a week, his email inbox felt thinner. Not empty, just lighter. Fewer CCs. Fewer FYIs. His calendar invitations stopped coming automatically. He had to ask to be added to meetings he'd attended for years. No one said anything. No one had to. At home, Owen noticed smaller things. His grocery store loyalty card didn't register points anymore. His streaming service asked him to verify location every night. His gym membership app logged him out twice a day. Individually, they were annoyances. Together, they formed a pattern. Friction. He ran his own name through a few public datasets, nothing invasive, just open records. Property tax logs.
Voter registration.
Professional licenses. Everything was still there. But timestamps lagged. Addresses mismatched slightly. Cross-references failed to resolve. It was like his data shadow had begun to drift out of alignment with him. Owen drove back to Bellwood Crossing the following Saturday. He didn't tell anyone. The road was freshly paved again. The diner was busier this time, though the faces felt interchangeable. He took a seat at the counter, ordered coffee, and waited. A man 2 stools down glanced at him. "You're not from here," the man said casually. Owen turned. "How can you tell?" The man smiled. "You're asking questions with edges." Owen studied him. Late 40s. Utility jacket. County worker posture. Someone used to watching infrastructure fail quietly. "What do you do?" Owen asked. The man considered him. "I maintain interfaces." Owen raised an eyebrow. "Interfaces between what?" The man looked around the diner. Not nervously, just thoroughly. "Between places that want to stay small," he said, "and systems that need them invisible." Owen felt his pulse spike. "You work for the county?" The man chuckled. "I work for continuity." He extended a hand. "Name's Carl." Owen shook it. "Owen." Carl nodded once. "You shouldn't have come back." "Why?" Owen asked. Carl sipped his coffee. "Because now you're noticeable." Owen leaned closer. "What is Bellwood Crossing?" Carl's jaw tightened. "A buffer," he said finally. "A pressure valve." "For what?" Carl gestured vaguely around them. "For noise. For people who don't fit cleanly into predictive models." Owen's mouth went dry. "You mean criminals?" Carl shook his head. "No. Criminals are loud. They get processed." "Then who?" Carl met his eyes. "People who generate uncertainty." Owen laughed softly. "That's everyone." Carl smiled thinly. "Not statistically." Owen felt the room press in. "You're managing a town," he said. "Off the books." Carl corrected him. "We're managing absence." Owen stared at the coffee, suddenly unable to drink it. "You paved the road 3 times," he said. "Why?" Carl hesitated just a fraction. "Because it resets memory," he said. "New asphalt changes GPS baselines, rewrites reference points, makes things harder to triangulate over time." Owen looked up sharply. "You're erasing it." Carl sighed. "We're preventing accumulation." Owen's phone buzzed. "No notification." Just a vibration. Carl's eyes flicked to it. "That's new," Carl said quietly. "They usually wait longer." Owen stood. "What happens to people who dig too deep?" Carl didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket and slid something across the counter. A laminated badge. Not an ID. Clearance tier. No name. No logo. Just a word printed in small official font. Maintenance. People like me, Carl said, are supposed to redirect curiosity, slow it down, tire it out. And if that fails? Owen asked. Carl's voice dropped. Then someone higher up decides whether you're worth integrating or isolating. Owen backed away. You're complicit. Carl's eyes hardened. You think I don't know? Owen left the diner shaking. On the drive home, his GPS rerouted twice without explanation. His phone lost signal for nearly 10 minutes. Not dead zones, just absence. When it returned, there was one new email in his personal inbox.
No sender.
No subject, just a PDF attachment. Owen opened it. It was a map. Dozens of towns like Bellwood Crossing, scattered across the country, all marked the same way.
Stability zone.
At the bottom, one line of text. Interference detected. Adjustment in progress. Owen felt something settle in his chest. This wasn't a warning. It was a process, and he had just become part of it. Owen didn't tell anyone about the map. Not because he didn't want help, but because every instinct he had told him that bringing other people into this would only make them collateral. Instead, he did what the system had trained him to do for over a decade. He documented. He printed the PDF and taped it to the inside of his closet, behind his winter coats. He copied the file onto 2 encrypted drives. He started a handwritten notebook, no cloud, no syncing, no metadata. Dates, times, changes, every small degradation in his daily life. Within days, the adjustments accelerated. His work badge failed intermittently, forcing him to sign in manually. His supervisor apologized again, vaguely, about temporary access reconciliation. His paycheck arrived late, then arrived again, duplicated, then vanished from his bank account with a bland notification citing internal correction. Owen called HR. They put him on hold. The hold music looped for 43 minutes before the call disconnected. When he tried again, the extension no longer existed. At home, the pressure became more personal. His landlord emailed to ask if Owen had moved out. The postal service flagged his address as non-standard. A package from his sister was returned unopened with a yellow sticker that read, "Unable to verify residence." Owen drove to the post office. The clerk typed his address, frowned, typed it again. "That unit number isn't active," she said. "I've lived there for 7 years." She shrugged. "System says no." The word system followed him everywhere now, spoken casually, without ownership, without accountability. That night, Owen tried something reckless. He emailed a journalist. Not a big name. Not someone visible. A regional investigative reporter named Maya Trent, who had once written a piece about predictive policing models misclassifying low-income neighborhoods. Someone who understood quiet erasure. He sent her a short message. "No attachments. I have evidence of off-the-book stability zones used to manage populations. If this sounds insane, it's because it's designed to." The email bounced back. "Address not found." Owen stared at the screen. Maya Trent had written an article 3 weeks ago. She existed, or she had. The next morning, Owen's car wouldn't start. No warning lights. No sounds. Just dead silence when he turned the key. A tow truck arrived within 15 minutes. Unsolicited. The driver stepped out, clipboard already in hand. "Parker?" the man asked. "Yes." "Vehicle flagged for reassignment," the driver said. "To where?" The man didn't answer. He hooked the car up efficiently, professionally, like this was routine. Owen stepped in front of the truck. "You can't take it." The driver met his eyes. There was no hostility there, just distance. "Sir," he said gently, "you don't own it anymore." Owen's phone buzzed again. This time it displayed text. "Mobility adjustment complete. Please remain where you are." Owen laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound. "This is insane," he said aloud to no one. The driver paused. "You should go inside," he said quietly. "It gets harder if you resist." Owen watched his car disappear down the street. Something fundamental broke then. Not fear. Trust. That afternoon, Owen walked to the public library. It was one of the few places left where presence still mattered, where you could sit without transacting data. He used a guest terminal, no login, no credentials. He searched for Bellwood Crossing. The town didn't exist anymore. Not blurred. Not obscured. Gone. The map now showed uninterrupted farmland where it had been. Owen searched for Carl. Nothing. He searched for Route 117 resurfacing projects. The projects were still listed, but the coordinates no longer matched any known geography. The system hadn't erased Bellwood Crossing. It had absorbed it. Owen felt cold. He printed what he could, stuffing pages into his backpack until the printer jammed. As he stood to leave, a security guard approached him. "Sir," the guard said, "we're closing early." It was 2:17 p.m. Outside, Owen noticed something chilling. People were looking through him, not avoiding him, not staring, just not registering. A woman nearly collided with him on the sidewalk and didn't apologize. Not because she was rude, but because she didn't seem to realize anyone was there. Owen waved a hand in front of a man's face. Nothing. He checked his reflection in a storefront window. He was still there. But the world was beginning to behave as if he wasn't. At dusk, his phone rang. A number with no caller ID. He answered. "Owen Parker," a calm voice said. "You are experiencing a transitional instability." "Who are you?" Owen demanded. "I represent a federal private continuity partnership," the voice replied. "Your behavior has created statistical noise. You're disappearing me. We're redistributing your impact," the voice corrected. "You will retain biological autonomy." Owen swallowed. "And my life, your life," the voice said, "will become less influential." Silence stretched. "There is an alternative," the voice added. Owen closed his eyes. "Let me guess. Maintenance." A pause. "Yes. You want me to help erase people like me. We want you to help smooth outcomes," the voice said. "You already understand the system. You noticed what others don't." Owen thought of Bellwood Crossing, of the diner, of the people who never said the town's name. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Another pause, longer this time. "Then you will continue," the voice said, "to become difficult to locate." The call ended. Owen stood alone on the darkening sidewalk, surrounded by a city that was slowly forgetting how to see him. And for the first time, he understood the true function of the stability zones. They weren't just places. They were fates. Owen accepted the offer without saying yes. He didn't refuse either. He asked for time. The voice on the phone granted him 72 hours. Not as a courtesy, as a calculation. During those 3 days, Owen lived in a narrowing corridor of existence. His phone still worked, but only intermittently. Certain apps refused to open. Others displayed outdated information, as if reality itself were lagging around him. His email inbox emptied itself in slow waves, messages vanishing without deletion notices. His bank account balance froze at 0, neither overdrawn nor corrected, just flatlined. At night, he walked the city because it was the only way to feel anchored. But even that began to fail. Security guards no longer asked him to move along. Rideshare drivers canceled rides the moment they arrived, staring straight through him before driving off. A barista handed him coffee he hadn't ordered, didn't charge him, didn't acknowledge him at all. Owen wasn't becoming invisible. He was becoming non-actionable. On the second night, he broke the rule he had sworn to keep. He went back to Bellwood Crossing. Or rather, to where Bellwood Crossing had been. The drive took longer than it should have. GPS failed halfway there, rerouting him in loops that felt intentional. But he followed memory instead, turns, curves, landmarks that no longer appeared on any map. When he arrived, The land was quiet in a way that felt curated. The diner was gone. The houses were gone. In their place stood rows of low, beige structures that looked like storage units or utility buildings. Identical, unlabeled, humming faintly with electricity. A chain-link fence circled the perimeter, but the gate was open. A sign hung crookedly beside it. Bellwood Regional Stabilization Annex. Owen stepped inside. The buildings weren't empty. They were occupied by data. Inside one unit, screens displayed scrolling metrics, population drift, emotional volatility indices, employment decay curves. Names flickered briefly before resolving into numbers. Lives reduced to thresholds. Another unit contained rows of filing cabinets, each drawer labeled with a town name. Owen opened one at random. Inside were driver's licenses, school photos, marriage certificates, obituaries, all neatly categorized, all stamped resolved. Bellwood Crossing wasn't erased because it failed. It was erased because it stabilized. A voice spoke behind him. "You weren't supposed to come here alone." Owen turned. The man was older, late 50s, wearing a plain jacket with no insignia. He looked like a civil servant, or a retired engineer, the kind of man who blended perfectly into airports and government buildings. "My name is Harold Finch," the man said. "I manage regional outcomes." "You disappear people," Owen said. Harold smiled faintly. "We reassign narratives." Harold explained it calmly, methodically, as if delivering a briefing that Owen should have already attended. The program wasn't new. It had begun decades earlier, refined quietly through public-private partnerships. The goal wasn't control. It was friction reduction. Communities that resisted economic shifts, individuals who destabilized predictive models, people who asked the wrong questions, they weren't imprisoned or killed. They were reabsorbed, given new identities, new trajectories, or, if necessary, quietly phased out of collective memory. "Most people don't notice," Harold said. "They adapt. The system is gentle." "And the ones who don't?" Owen asked. Harold gestured around them. "They become examples," he said. "Or maintenance." Owen understood then why he'd been flagged. He didn't just see patterns. He remembered them. Harold made him an offer again. More explicit this time. A role inside the system. Oversight. Influence. A guarantee of continued existence. "You can't stop this," Harold said. "But you can shape it." Owen asked a single question. "Is there a way out?" Harold hesitated. "There is," he said. "But it's irreversible." That night, Owen didn't sleep. He uploaded everything. Not to one place, to hundreds. Fragments, screenshots, logs, coordinates. Not enough to explain everything, but enough to poison the model, to create noise. By morning, the system reacted. Power surged across the annex. Alarms sounded. Phones rang in offices Owen would never see. Harold found him standing by the fence. "You've made yourself a variable," Harold said, anger finally breaking through his composure. "That was the point," Owen replied. They told him the truth then. Once flagged, there were only 3 endpoints: integration, erasure, or symbolic collapse. Owen chose the third. He walked out of Bellwood Crossing at dawn. Weeks later, stories began appearing online. Small ones. A town that couldn't be found anymore. A man declared dead who showed up at his own funeral. Entire census blocks misfiled. The system corrected most of it, but not all. Owen Parker officially died 6 months later in a workplace accident that no one could quite remember. But sometimes, in quiet corners of the internet, someone uploads a file. A map that doesn't exist. A list of towns that shouldn't be gone. And if you search carefully enough, you'll find a warning buried in the metadata. If you feel like the world is moving on without you, it might not be an accident, because the system doesn't need you to disappear. It just needs you to stop mattering. And once that happens, you won't even know you're gone.